Yo, what's up guys? It's your boy Rich, aka Major Monkey. Hope you guys have been doing good. Hope you've been having a fantastic week. We're back with another review video today, specifically on two mice, the 10 Air and the 10 from Ninjutso. It's their most recent mouse, and massive shout out to Ninjutso for sending these out for review. I've always had a goal of mine to work with Ninjutso officially and review their product, and so I'm extremely honored, extremely humbled, and thankful to have this opportunity. And yeah, with that being said, though, even though these products were sent to me for review, of course, my opinions and what I'm going to tell you about the mouse are my actual genuine thoughts and feelings of the product. And so, yeah, if you guys are new to the channel, welcome. Hope you guys enjoy the video, and let's get straight into the review. Alrighty guys, so in terms of pricing and colorways, you have the white with blue accents and the all black version. The 10 is coming in at $89.99, whereas the 10 Air option is coming in at $10 more at $99.99. But currently though, on the website, the 10 Air only has the white with blue accents available. The black one is out of stock at the moment. I'm not sure when they're planning on restocking that, so if you are leaning more towards the 10 Air, then currently on their website, it's only the white with blue accents. Now, in terms of weight for each of the mice, they rate the 10 to come in at 53 grams and the 10 Air to come in at 45 grams. Now, when I weighed mine personally, I was actually surprised that I actually nailed those targets. So my 10 Air came in exactly at like 45.5 grams, I think. And then the 10 came in at 53.2 or 3, I think. And so almost straight on, right at the target. So really nice that there's no, typical when you weigh these mice, it's always like, 45 grams, give or take, maybe 1 to 3 grams or, something like that. And so super nice that they actually advertised a target, and then actual in-use weighing them, they nailed the target. And so super cool with that. In terms of battery life, they do offer up to 140 hours for the 10 option, and then the 10 Air is rated to have up to 95 hours. Now, this mouse is 8K compatible, and the 8K dongle does come in included with the mouse. So if you guys are, owners of the Sora V2 and you picked up that Sora V2 pretty early on when it came out, like myself, you probably remember the whole kind of drama with that of the 8K, it kept advertising that the mouse is 8K compatible, but the dongle that came included with the mouse was just a 1K dongle. And then the 8K dongle just took forever to come out. I mean, it took so long to come out. And then when it finally did come out, you had to buy it. And so, it was a whole bunch of stuff, bunch of nonsense. I'm a big guy, a big supporter of including the 8K dongle right away with the mouse. There's no reason to sell it separately. I think it's the most silliest thing in the world. Just include it with the product. Like there's no issue with it. So very nice. I can happily confirm that the 8K dongle does come with the 10 Air and the 10. You do not have to buy it separately. And yeah, it's 8K compatible. So again, with that battery life, don't be expecting 140 hours with the 10 or 95 hours with the 10 Air at 8K. 8K and all of its features are going to be chewing up the battery life. Now, even playing with at 8K though, I've never had issue with the battery whatsoever. I enjoyed it a ton. Never had an issue with the battery feeling like it was draining more than it typically should have, or feeling like I had to charge it sooner than I was expecting. Both mice performed perfectly fine with the battery life. Yeah, it looks like basically if you're someone that wants a lighter mouse and you're okay with kind of shaving off some of that battery life, the 10 is going to be a great option, whereas with the 10, that's going to, go up in weight, but you then get that extra battery life with the mouse. Now, in terms of the sensor, it is rocking an exclusively developed sensor, the AIM Ninja sensor, and they worked with Pixar to make this. Apparently, it offers things like the fine tuning, like your angle tuning on the sensor, and apparently up to 20% less power consumption. Now, in real use, can I feel that 20% less consumption than a normal 3950? No, I really couldn't. But if that's the case though, and it is true, then that's great that they were able to develop that and save a little bit less in the power consumption. Let's get straight now into the shape comparisons with the 10 and 10 Air. Alrighty guys, so for the shape comparisons, I have two mice here, and to me, I feel like these are the two mice that the 10 is really trying to compete with and persuade you to get this over these two options, especially in terms of the pricing. The 10 is going to be coming in a lot cheaper than these two. And so these two mice are the Superlight 2 from Logitech and the Viper V3 Pro from Razer. And I'll blow up these pictures, guys, for you on the screen so you can see a lot easier. For the Superlight 2, overall the dimensions are very, very similar. To me, the biggest difference here is going to be towards the front of the mouse. As you can see, the 10 starts to slope a lot more harshly than the Superlight 2, where the Superlight 2 is a lot more rounded out. Then if we look at something like the Viper V3 Pro, to me, as you can see here on the top, the slope is a lot more similar in the front end with the 10 and the Viper V3 Pro, but overall though, the Viper V3 Pro is a much longer mouse, and I think a lot more flatter on the sides than the 10. So in terms of the most similar of the two, I think the 10 and the Superlight are a lot more similar, whereas, you know, with the Viper V3 Pro, it does have its differences, but overall though, both of these mice are ambidextrous mice, and I think are like the most popular when it comes to this type of mouse. And so with the 10 Air and the 10 coming into this scene, you know, trying to compete with these other type of ambidextrous mice, to me, these are the biggest two Goliaths that it's going to be competing with. And in terms of pricing, again, these two mice are a lot more expensive than the 10 and 10 Air, where especially with the 10 being only $90 and the 10 Air being $100, you're still saving around $50 to $70 compared to getting something like the Viper V3 Pro or the Superlight 2. And in terms of weight, especially with the 10 Air, you're looking at getting a mouse that's a lot lighter than something like the Superlight 2, where, you know, that comes in around 60 grams. The Viper V3 Pro comes in around the mid 50s, where, you know, with the 10, that's very similar to the Viper V3 Pro. You know, they're almost identical in terms of the weight. But the 10 Air is a lot lighter than these other two mice, saving you around over 15 to 10 grams, and still a lot cheaper. So I think it's a great competitor for these two mice. If you don't have either of these mice, I think the 10 Air is definitely something to possibly look at. But yeah, these are the two shape comparisons that I have, and let's get now into the final part of the video, which is overall just my thoughts and my opinions on the mouse. Alrighty, guys, so for my personal thoughts and opinions of the mouse, before I get to that, I really quickly want to just kind of target two things that have kind of came up with this mouse a lot. And first off, it's the software. Now, they do have a web-based version, but for my personal copy and for other videos that I've seen online, I was not able to use the web-based version right off the bat. And the reason for that was because the receiver and device were not up to date. One of them was not up to date. I can't remember which one it was, but one of them was not up to date. And so I just was unable to use the web-based version, meaning I had to download the software, update everything, and then I could use the web-based version. Is that a big deal? In my opinion, no, but I'm also someone that's very used to like just dealing with mice and like checking up on this kind of stuff. Whereas I don't think by default a customer should have to do this to use a feature like a web-based driver, especially when it's already advertised as like a main thing. Like that's like a main feature, is that you don't have to download anything. They have a web-based version. But then you try to do that and it doesn't work because one of these things are not up to date. So you have to download the software. Then you could use it's a hassle and it's not needed. It should have been easily preventable. Something that shouldn't have came out with the release, but want to just highlight that really quick. And also the whole kind of top shell integrity. I've seen people kind of been like applying a lot of force up here, and some even cracked their mouse because it's really easy to kind of flex the top here. In no real world use are you flexing pressure up there like that. You're just not. And so please don't be dumb and possibly crack your mouse. I understand flex tests when it's actually in places on the mouse that you're going to be typically putting pressure on, but something like right here on the mouse, that never is going to happen. You're never going to put that amount of pressure in that specific centered spot. So just don't be dumb. Don't be doing stupid tests like that and breaking your mouse. It's just like, come on. It's almost like people are just finding something to complain about just to complain about it. So just don't do that. Yeah. So now actually, for the mouse, have I enjoyed my time with the 10 and the 10 Air? I can confidently tell you that I have really, really enjoyed these mice. And to me, comparing this to something like the Viper V3 Pro or something like the Superlight 2, this is definitely my favorite of the three because of it being slightly smaller than those other two mice and it being a little bit lighter. I think those other two mice are phenomenal, and they're obviously so popular for a reason. They are fantastic mice. But I think for what you get with this mouse compared to those for the price, I think it's a no-brainer. And I think if you're somebody that hasn't, picked up either of those two mice and are looking for a really solid ambidextrous kind of mouse, I think the 10 and the 10 Air are fantastic choices. They come with 8K, the weight feels very nice and balanced, like really, really solid mouse. I've had zero issues with it whatsoever. There's minor complaints with stuff like the whole software thing. I've also seen people complain about, the dongle not being able to adjust the brightness, because it is kind of bright right off the bat. But again, that's a very minor nitpick. Should it have come out with the option to adjust the brightness? Yes, but if the light is really that bothering, you can just turn it off, But I do think the mouse is a fantastic mouse. I've had no issues with it whatsoever. The side buttons, the main clicks feel fantastic to me. I think the scroll wheel has very defined steps that I really enjoy the feel of. I've never had an issue with the sensor or anything. The battery life has performed really well. The software or the web-based version, I think they offer, just enough options to mess with. You have yourself like your DPI, your competitive mode, the hyperclick options to help with, double clicks and stuff like that. Motion sync, lift off distance, slam click prevention, angle tuning if that's something that you really like to mess with, sleep timers, and then also your polling rate. So yeah, I just overall, in the games that I've played with them, I played my tacticals, my more dynamic, faster paced games like Rivals or like Valorant for the tactical shooters, and I've enjoyed it for both. I think it's a fantastic mouse, especially, again, my biggest thing is the price. I think the fact that you can get a solid ambidextrous mouse for this price compared to something like the Superlight 2 or the Viper V3 Pro, which is like in the mid hundreds. You could pick this up for like $90 for the 10 or $100 for the 10 Air and get a really solid performing mouse. Now, another complaint I do have though is the hyper skates that come with the mouse. Those things I think felt fine. I know a lot of people have been complaining about how they feel. In my personal opinion, they didn't feel that bad, but they didn't feel good though. I should really specify. They didn't feel that good, but they didn't feel like awful. My biggest complaint was they were impossible to take off. I don't know why I was struggling so much to take. I've never had an issue with skates, but these were so hard to take off. I don't know if anyone else that has these copies and have used this kind of mouse have had those issues, but they were so rough to take off. But overall though, I've really, really enjoyed the mouse, and I definitely do recommend you to try it if you maybe are looking to try an ambidextrous mouse. And even if you do have the Logitech and the Viper V3 Pro already, I do think they did a really good job with the 10 and the 10 Air. And so, yeah, thank you guys so much for watching the video, and I'll check you guys later. See ya.